have a lot of money as a kid. So I had an overall approach where all the stuff that you normally see in a zombie movie is more on the periphery, and we're following our main characters with more of a subjective experience. You're always with him, the camera's always on him. So I guess my logic was keep it really rooted in specificity as opposed to getting into the bigger stuff. And as a consequence, I feel like the tone is consistent because you're with Dane most of the time.
Yeah.
So you're just tracking. As long as his emotionality is authentic, then you can kind of take liberties and get really crazy or get really, I guess meaningful in moments. So yeah. So I think that was the idea, was just to kind of mix it up, but always stay the same with the main character.
Do you want to discuss how it first came together when we first decided to make a project like this? I know it predates I Heart Movies, right?
Yeah, I wrote this in 2003, and I almost made it, and it fell apart at the very last second. And so I kind of just shelved it and was like, fuck that shit, it's over. And then I guess it was like 8 or 9 years later.
You say it was resurrected?
So Aubrey had a meeting with her agency, and they were just going over ideas for projects or whatever. And he said, hey, what about that project your boyfriend wrote? And she said, what are you talking about? And so he told her about this, because back in the day...
You're my boyfriend?
She brought it up to me, and we don't sit there and talk about work and pitch ideas to each other, so it wasn't like something that we're like, let's figure something out, what did it wrong? And when he saw that, it kind of clicked, because everyone kind of thinks I wrote it for her, but I wrote it 8 years before I met her. Like, she was in junior high school or something when I wrote it. So it's creepy. So I mean, long story short, once she said that she was into it, and it just made sense. I kind of reached out to John C. Reilly, my friend Miguel Arteta, who's the director. He's done 3 movies with John, and he just gave him a heads up that we were going to call ahead. And John was totally enthusiastic, and once we had John and Aubrey, I think everyone just wanted to work with those guys, so it was pretty easy to kind of get the ball rolling on it and it became real. So it went from something I wrote and gave up on, and then just kind of came back out of nowhere. And this was, so that's the gist of it.
It was a 22-day shoot, was it not?
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to talk a little about what you learned as a first-time director working in film with such an incredible, huge cast, really, with so much history, working in film like this on such a scale in 22 days?
Yeah, I went to film school, so between making short films and film school and doing, I think, a feature, there's a massive jump. But, the logic is pretty much the same, and the technical stuff is pretty similar. It's just you have really good actors and a really good DP, and pretty much everyone's awesome at what they're doing. So, it makes it a lot easier for you to focus on, making choices. And, working with them was incredible, and obviously Peter was amazing, and Aubrey's amazing, and John C. Reilly's amazing, and Dane's amazing. They're all just absolutely incredible people. And but the challenge ultimately is money and time. And so if we had a little bit more money, we would obviously have a little bit more time. But we we would do like 12-page days sometimes. The scene where she goes off the cliff, all that hiking stuff, and then all the stuff where they're in the attic was one day. And when she's in the diner, when he's in the diner with Anne Kendrick, and when she gets hit by the car, that's all one day. So normally those would be days in and of themselves, but we had to compress the schedule. So I think that's the biggest challenge. Other than that, it was amazing. So I'm not complaining, I'm just kind of doing it.
Sure. Do you want to talk a little bit about the score?
Yeah, so Robert Dean from Black Rebel Motorcycle Club is a really good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. And so actually when I wrote this, we had talked about collaborating on this together. And that was a point in their career where I think they weren't, they hadn't even had commercials yet. Now some of their songs are commercials and whatever. So we had talked about doing this. It fell apart. And then when it finally was resurrected, we decided that they'd be, obviously they'd be the best choice to score it. And they had never done it before. They had only, obviously done rock stuff, and I think the adjustment was a little steep for a second because they were familiar with having music in the foreground. When you do a score, you generally want it in the background, and this is more of a montage. So, yeah, but that was, they were amazing, and it was just fun kind of watching them figure it out while I was figuring it out, and just all, it was a nice fun.
Like Dario Argento and Gubler. Would you liken it to that?
Yeah, except Dario Argento was someone to play with them, and I'm not that good yet, so that's some of the difference between me and Dario Argento.
Aubrey, what's it like being directed by your boyfriend?
It was really great. Thank you for asking.
unexpected anecdotes, any funny things you might want to share? Or was it just exactly what you anticipated?
Just in general.
On the shooting.
Unexpected anecdotes. So many anecdotes. All were unexpected. I don't know.
Well, okay, what was the most unusual thing that happened to you during shooting the film?
Unusual.
With relation to Jeff or without relation to Jeff?
Oh, okay.
Whoever.
Well, having an oven strapped to my back, I never thought that would ever happen to me. But that's why I love movies, because they're natural.
Thank you. Matt, your favorite moment from the shooting?
Oh man, every moment was a lot of fun. I think the scene with the grandfather and the sort of scene where everybody kind of losing their mind was probably the most fun. But it was great working on this every step of the way.
Yeah, hopefully they do this on the DVD. I don't know how it's going to work, but when he's having a conversation with Dane while he's cleaning his gun in their underwear, Gubler devised, I guess you call it a button, for every single take that was completely different from every other take. And honestly, it was like we were dying laughing. Like, it was amazing. And he's doing like push-ups and it was fun for shit. Yeah, hopefully you guys get to see that, because I'm telling you, that's like the funniest thing that ever happened.
Okay, let's open up some questions from the audience. Yes?
I wanted to ask Aubrey, what was the best thing about getting to play a zombie?
The best thing about playing zombie, well, I think the best thing for me is that zombies aren't real. So, initially, when I was thinking about doing the movie, I thought, okay, I'm playing zombies, so I should go watch a million zombie movies and like really understand what a zombie is. And then I thought, but they're not real, so like, I can do whatever I want. There are no rules. So I liked that. And I just liked being able to like conjure up all of the evil like spirits inside of me from my childhood, my trauma, and physicalize it for strangers.
Okay, next question. Sure.
Matthew, how do you find it to transition from Spencer, who reminds me of a lot about everything, to who doesn't know that much?
For people that didn't hear, she asked what the transition was from this character that doesn't know much. On TV, I play a character that knows a lot. And it was a lot of fun and a wonderful
Did you guys know Gubler from the TV show Criminal Minds?
It's kind of obscure, but...
it was a lot of fun, and it's, to go to the other extreme was always quite enjoyable.
Can I add something to that?
Please do.
I just want to point out that in the script Jeff wrote, that character is written physically very different from...
I thought it was, when I read the script, I couldn't own her up. I thought it was a joke, because they sent out, I want you to consider this role, and I was very
It's written
excited.
as like a shaved head,
Muscular, beefcake, like, and I got mortified, because I didn't know Jeff at the time, and I thought it was an accident that they called him. I think that's somebody else, and this is really embarrassing when I meet him, he's going to be so disappointed. And then I realized the brilliance of his casting is,
that there's all kinds of beefcakes.
Honestly, it was like a more sort of military type, but what had happened was when you go to cast a movie, your casting agents or directors, they give you a list of actors in the age range that, and sometimes they're totally absurd, they just don't make, like people that don't even make sense. And he actually was one of them, but I looked at it, and Aubrey's little sister is obsessed with him from Criminal Minds, and so they hung out, and like he was on my radar, and then something clicked in my head where I don't know, it was almost like Gareth from the British Office, where it's like a funnier version of like a military freak, where they're actually not like super buff, but they're just, it's almost like they're wiry and like ready to rip the world apart, and I could see that's
the nicest compliment, thank you.
sorry. Was that a statement? Right now? Thank you. I don't know what's happening.
Okay, yes.
How do you visual effects for the hound on the back? Like
Okay, so what we did was there's three different.
How did you do that?
Okay, well, there's three different objects we would use. One is a black styrofoam box that has like green little dots all over it. So we would strap that to the stunt girl's back and it was just to fall back because you basically 3D CGI the shape of the stove onto it, which is the least exciting. The second one is a sort of hybrid between the real frame of the stove and one that also has styrofoam and is supposedly really light, but it actually was really heavy. That had a harness on it that she would strap on to her body, so that would pretty much look like a real stove except the back. We had a CGI on, so we also had the little green dots on the back, so like when they're looking over the cliff, it has a real background. And the third one is when it actually does go over, it's the real stove. And then when Aubrey's on her back after she falls over, that's the real stove. So we would sort of oscillate between those three. I was going to say one real quick thing I thought was kind of weird. So Tim Nye, who's one of our financiers, is here tonight, and he's Canadian. Aubrey's birthday is actually tonight. Like it says July 19, 2014. And the other weird thing is, just not to get spooky on you guys, but the day she was born in the movie was the day that we premiered at Sundance, which was a complete crapshoot.
We're all excited.
And the only thing that was real was the July 8th was the day we started shooting the year before, so all those dates actually...
Ooh, numbers.
But you have to take that out of this direct action. Yes?
Why an addict?
Why an addict? Addicts? An addict. Okay, so
They like ads.
yeah, it's like there's two reasons. One is more obscure, which is when I was a kid, I had this weird dream that I don't want to get into. And then the reason is around the time I was writing this, I was reading one of Jeff Baena, who is a philosopher and is French, and he basically has a lot of discussions about language and structure and all stuff, but to like save you guys like a lecturer, the gist is he studied zombies for a little bit and was interested in how they sort of short-circuit the logic between paradoxes like light and dark, up and down, that without one thing you can't inform the other. So there is no such thing as an absolute. There's no absolute light because you need dark in order for it to exist, so therefore it's a flawed system. And zombies are undead, and they're dead in our lives. So they sort of typify this sort of breakdown in communication. And so I was kind of running with that, and there was a lot of things that sort of felt like they were a violation of sort of normality. So, they live in a house, but usually you live in a regular part of the house. You don't live in the attic, but she wants to live in the attic. And, there's the indoor and the outdoor are not separate from her, so she's turning the attic into a mudroom, which is like an outdoor thing, and which is, there's just a lot of like opposites being sort of completely thrown haywire that I think when you're a zombie, you have this insane cognitive dissonance where you're like, I'm dead and I'm alive, and you can't reconcile that this is the kind of, I think this is where you end up with. You end up with almost this like transcendent insanity. That's why I think it's
A great answer.
Yes.
My question is for Matthew. Hi. Welcome to Montreal.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Sorry?
Thank you for having me, Montreal, as they say.
You said earlier that this role was very different because it was the guy that's not knowing as much as the one you do in Third Line. Do you like that kind of difference, or do you feel lost? How?
I love it. I like playing daft, or sort of like
Like, no, they don't.
he thinks he knows a
And he's
lot.
different.
I love the difference, and like, I think the trick with Kyle was that I talked to Jeff earlier before we started, and he said, to Kyle, there's black and white. There's no in between. He wants to be a policeman. You're either guilty or you're innocent. So the whole concept of zombies to me became this, like, they're not dead or alive. They're in this weird gray area that would just create this guy who's so stuck in his ways to be completely freaked out and confused and hopefully kind of funny. Thank you. Yes.
Is there a reason why there were no cell phones? Everybody kept calling on the house phone?
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't know, I was just kind of trying to avoid having on cell phones. I feel like it's so not interesting to cut to a screen and see people typing text messages and stuff that, you know, it's like it's a movie. So, it wasn't really recording hours, it's like, it's against cell phones, so like, fuck cell phones. Yes.
Question for Matthew. What do you think about the haircut you had?
I love that haircut. When we first, and Ricky Bates, I have a movie with him after, we'll talk a great deal about hair and that as well. But with this, we talked to Jeff and I were really hoping I wanted to do like a buzz cut and just have like the most ridiculously short, unattractive haircut. But I couldn't do that, so we sort of came up with a nice medium that seemed like sort of out of a different era.
You guys want to hear a funny story about his hair? I don't know if you know this.
I don't know this story. Oh no.
So when we were doing this deal, the criminal rights people must have been burnt at some point with you getting a haircut because they put in his rider that he can't get a haircut. Are you serious? It's apparently strike, and he and I were talking, and there was never a discussion with them. We're like, hey, can you get a crew cut? But they literally put a thing in there like, Matthew cannot alter his hair in any way whatsoever.
I never knew that. That's insane. Photos of Buzz. I was like, I'm gonna do this one. Look at this. Oh wow, I'm glad I didn't do that.
Next question, yes.
My question is for all of you. What are your next projects?
Oh, sorry. Are you sorry? Or Mitch? Sorry.
Fantasia 2015.
Suburban Gothic Q&A.
Go for it. Yeah, I'm hoping, well, there's a couple things. One thing is an adaptation of this book, Lysergic by Crystal Cole, that hopefully works out.
I start season 7, final season, Parks and Recreation. And I have a couple of movies coming out this fall. One of them, hopefully, is going to get into TIFF, and so I'll be back in Canada, which I'm excited about. And it's a Hal Hartley movie.
I just started season 10 of Criminal Minds, and I'm acting in and helping produce a modern-day adaptation of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. And I just filmed a movie that will hopefully come out sometime in January called Hot Air. And more forms.
We also have sells some art and t-shirts on his website if you guys want to check out MatthewGubler.com.
Okay, we got time for one last question. Make it good. No questions about an actor's relative complexion. Yes.
I want to know why the choice for smooth jazz.
Okay, so years ago, I think it was probably years before I read this, I wrote the script. There was an article that came out that was about smooth jazz. I don't like smooth jazz. I like a good portion of regular jazz, but smooth jazz and free jazz I can't deal with. But so there was an article that came out that was explaining why they have smooth jazz in waiting rooms and doctors' offices, and they did all these weird tests, and I guess these scientists proved that it actually boosts your immune system, and it helps relax you and calms you down on the most basic human level, like a subliminal, unconscious, weird cue to just like chill your body out. And so I think I just took a leap and just figured, well, the zombies are gonna like music, and there was definitely a strong undertone of music throughout the movie because Zach's a musician, and there was like some orchestra stuff. But so that if Zach, if zombies are the most basic level of human, that this would have killed them because it's their kind of music since it's working on such a base level.